That I don't know. I know they were on site yesterday to take the samples. The results of those testing was communicated to me today verbally over the phone about 5 p.m., which after that is when we had decided to close access to the Park Lakes.
And the tests, are they conducted periodically through the year, or when exactly did they start? When did they start conducting?
Well, as far as this event goes, I know the Board of Health took the samples yesterday, somewhere between midday and end of the day. The testing window is roughly 24 hours until the results can be seen.
And when did Mill Creek Metro Parks find out these results?
We found out about the results today, again, verbally over the phone, approximately 5 p.m.
Can you talk about the results? What was found? Acceptable levels, unacceptable levels, things like that?
Yeah, what was communicated to me was there were two items that were tested for. One was E. coli bacteria and the other was fecal matter. The fecal matter came back within acceptable levels. The E. coli came back in exceeding the thresholds for a public nuisance as set forth by Ohio Administrative Code. At 576 parts per million, or milliliters per 100 liter, I believe it is, or milligrams per 100 liter. 5 out of the 7 samples that were taken exhibited results in the 770 range or higher, all the way up to 1200. So 5 out of the 7 were well over what is considered the acceptable threshold for public use.
What kind of effects can those high levels have on people who would use the lakes?
That I don't know. We did not wait any longer until we found out the results. The results speak for themselves. It was recommended to us by the County Board of Health that access be closed to those lakes.
Even though you've only been here since January, have you heard of any type of thing like this happening in the past?
Well, if you look on news today and you Google the issue, you're going to see that there are many cities dealing with the same issue as a result of the high volume of water that's come through the system here in the last 30 days.
Within Mill Creek Park itself? Or
No, within Mill Creek Park, we have nobody could remember within recent past on when access to public water had been closed as a result of these storm sewers.
Are you able to say any idea of when the lakes may reopen?
No, we do not. At this time, they are closed until further notice. We will be collaborating with both the Ohio EPA, the Department of Natural Resources, and the County Board of Health to identify subsequent testing methods and procedures to be able to identify when we will test again and at what parameters.
I only have a couple more, guys. And as far as Youngstown storm and sewer that gets overloaded and backed up, things like that, we were told that it may be maybe close to 20 years before they revisit that. Are you going to urge Youngstown to maybe take a quicker look at some of this, or the commissioners maybe get involved, things like that?
Well, I think urge is probably an understatement. I think the real question here is how long are the people of Mahoning Valley going to accept sanitary sewage being dumped into the very entity that they are paying to protect?
Last question I have for now. The different programs, events that were supposed to take place at the park in the lakes, obviously have to be postponed. What are you telling people that have signed up for these things when they may be rescheduled, things like that?
Right. Well, we're telling them what we know at this time, which is access to the lakes will be prohibited until the water comes back at an acceptable level that is safe for public access. We're not going to put any type of time frame on that. The water's safe whenever it tests appropriately.
The last question, for me anyways, when will the next set of testing occur and how often now periodically?
That's what we have not determined yet. We will be meeting with, again, the representatives from the Board of Health as well as the EPA to identify next step procedures.
I'm good. Go ahead, guys.
Aaron, you said the Board of Health recommended the closing. Talk about that decision, and maybe you agree with it, disagree with it? Or
Oh, no, I agree with
it.
I agree with it wholeheartedly. Up until today, we had been communicating daily with both the Ohio EPA, city representatives, County Board of Health. And in talking with the Ohio EPA, they had conducted their own testing. Results of those tests were not going to be available for another 2 to 3 weeks, which it's an inappropriate time frame for us. We didn't want to wait 2 to 3 weeks. The County Board of Health identified that their testing results would be available much sooner than that. So once we found out that their results were going to be made available to us much sooner than that, that's when we identified, listen, if we can get the factual information in front of us at a quicker time frame, we will respond based upon those facts.
Just tell me about what you think in terms of the decision. You've seen the fish kill for over a week now. Why did it take to this point, this long, Friday, to get these results back and make a decision?
Well, I think the reason that the decision didn't come until today is because we didn't have the factual information today. You know, we're going to base our decisions here at Mill Creek Metro Park based upon fact that is supported by science and supplemented with a little common sense. We relied heavily on the regulatory agencies that are specifically responsible for the protection of the environment. And when that time frame was not suitable to our needs, we acted.
What impact do you think this is having on the park's reputation?
Well, I think most people in the valley know that the park is simply the recipient of the sanitary outflow, to put it lightly. I mean, the real issue, as I mentioned before, is how long are the residents of the county going to accept this condition? I would argue that the only manner in which we could have been proactive would have been prohibiting the outflow into Mill Creek over 50 years ago. So anything after that is too late. Now, whether 21 design and 2033 implementation is appropriate, I think most will argue that that is way too long to wait to address what has now impacted the public in the realm of their recreational opportunities and their health, safety, and welfare.
Will you push for an expedited testing schedule to get this banner hung over?
Yeah, obviously we would, we don't want to see anybody's recreational opportunities impacted by any means, whether it's dissolved oxygen or it's the CSOs coming from the city. But we're also going to err on the side of caution with regards to what the facts we find out tell us. So again, we're going to rely pretty heavily on the expertise of the Board of Health members as well as the Ohio EPA administration on identifying what the next procedures are, what rates the testing needs to occur, and what Mill Creek Metro Parks should do in both the short term and the long term to be able to convey to park users the condition of the water.
I just had a question.
Well, I think erring on the side of caution and preempting closing the lakes are two different things. I don't believe they're directly linked. One is when the fish kill was first identified, Ohio Department of Natural Resource representatives were on site and identified that the cause or source of the fish kill was dissolved oxygen, a lack of dissolved oxygen. And the lack of dissolved oxygen within the water itself is not a health risk to park users or to those utilizing the water as recreation. As time progressed, it identified that CSOs can contribute to the dissolved oxygen. And when we have identified that there are many CSOs that empty out into Mill Creek Park, the EPA identified that testing was needed, as well as the County Board of Health. It was simply whose results were going to be available sooner, and it ended up being the Board of Health.
And then, of course, with the system, the storm sewer system we have in place with dumping sewage into the lakes has been around for decades, determined by industry and congressmen. And now we're asking residents to have this problem resolved within another 20 years. Do you think that's fair?
No, I don't think it's fair. I think a problem that's hidden by time doesn't go away. And you saw that today. And you see that with the actions of Mill Creek Metro Parks identifying that the very waters that the people of the valley pay to protect are unsafe because of this condition. I don't know how any more emphasis can be put on it other than that statement.
Have you reached out to officials, elected officials on all levels of government?
We have reached out to the officials here and have discussed the issue at hand. And the topic being that, funds are not available at this time for that. Well, we need to do a better job in identifying when those funds will become available. Sitting around and waiting for the next 20 years to fix a problem that's in excess of 50 years in the making is not the way we solve problems.
I had one more, if that's okay. I know. I don't even know if it's feasible or if you would, can the state get involved more? Can you ask the state to get involved more? Because you said it's all over Ohio.
Well, I think we can only speak for what's impacting us here in the Mahoning Valley, and specifically here. I will only be able to speak to what's impacting us here at Mill Creek Metro Parks. But, you know, the city is not alone in addressing infrastructure that is both aged and dilapidated. But it's something that needs to be addressed because there are secondary effects that come through that or come as a result of that dilapidated system. And you're seeing that here today with the impacts to the park system. Now, whether that system is antiquated or aged to a certain level, we'll let the experts speak to that. But the very fact that you have a sanitary system associated with an urban area that empties into a recreational component that is supported by the people cannot be appropriate and cannot be right.
Well, you've got a lake full of dead fish and of human waste. How confident are you that you acted in a timely fashion to handle all this?
Well, I think we are confident in the fact that we acted based upon fact when that fact was available. I think anytime you have information that can lead you to making a decision, it's inherent that you wait until all the facts are on the table. But it's also inherent that you don't wait too long. Are we frustrated by the lack of timeliness from our regulatory agencies? Yes, we are very frustrated. And we refused to wait any longer, and we acted on our own based upon the information that we had.
What will you do next? What is your next move?
My next move is to coordinate, as I noted, with county health officials as well as the Ohio EPA in identifying what our next steps are to fix the short-term problem, which is the water quality here. Next steps would be contacting whoever we need to at both the county, state, and federal level to identify that we do not have the ability and should not be asked to wait another 20 years to fix a problem of this magnitude.
Does what's happening scare you?
I don't think it scares me. It frustrates me that we've had an issue that has been well known and discussed for nearly 50 to 100 years, and that nobody has addressed the problem. And that we're talking today about how quickly Mill Creek Metro Parks could have addressed the situation when we acted in the best interest of Mill Creek Metro Parks and the people of the Mahoning Valley. And in recent history, nobody can identify when the parks have been closed or when a recreational opportunity has been impacted as a result of this condition, which is unfortunate because this condition is in excess of 50 years old. So you're talking about inactivity in a period of time that exceeds 50 years. But by acting today, we're being criticized for being untimely. I think untimely is 50 years.
Dave, anything